possibility of a a bigger fire because of having the tank get in? Is there anything?
It's a fairly common occurrence out in the rural areas. So I mean, it's something that most rural departments are well versed in. So could it happen? Sure. Likelihood, not very.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Chief Young. He's the chief for Little River, and he said it's no different than most of what they're used to in the rural areas.
Right.
Like you said, they have a drill to run to the nearest hydrant that they can find, fill up, and deal with it as needed.
And do we know where's the nearest hydrant?
There's one, and I looked at it earlier. There's one a half mile to the south. There's one that's closer that's going in on the Keela development to the north. They would have to go into the neighborhood and access that one.
And they can do that?
Okay. I did.
Yeah.
Unless I'm wrong.
No, they can. And I think one's on Parker's Bluff, actually south of it, and then the other one's up a little bit north.
Okay, I drove out here and I couldn't figure that out. So thank you very much.
Sure.
Anything else?
Mayor, I did want to talk a little bit about item number 6, which is chapter 14. We had a work session presentation on this a couple of weeks ago, so I don't want to go through the whole thing, but one of the questions that was outstanding was related to parking or the prohibition against parking mobile food units in residential areas. Since that time, chapter 14 has gone to P&Z, so I wanted to kind of share with you what they, Alan, can you help me? I don't think I may have set that up correctly for this to advance. Can you advance the slide for me? Thank you. So that's really the main, I guess, kind of last point of discussion for the Planning and Zoning Commission. They did ultimately recommend approval of chapter 14 as presented by staff, but they did recommend that the prohibition on storing mobile food units at a residence be removed. So in other words, they recommend that you allow mobile food units to be stored at residences. Otherwise, they recommended approving chapter 14 as presented. So I just wanted you to be aware of that background and that conversation. And then since the P&Z meeting, actually just in the last day or two, one other issue has come up that I wanted to bring to your attention. And it's related to the requirement that's in our current ordinance that all food and beverages be prepared, served, stored, and displayed on the mobile food unit itself and not outside the actual unit. I believe Amanda got a couple of questions from mobile food units, perhaps one that was doing crawfish maybe off the unit, and something else you might, another example would be like a barbecue, like doing barbecue pit off the unit. So Amanda did call the state because there are some requirements in the state code, but the state does allow cooking and grilling outside of the enclosed portion of a mobile food unit if the grill or pit has a lid to cover the food while it's cooking. And they require that all other food prep, so cutting, slicing, assembly, be done inside the mobile food unit. So again, the current draft that's before you does not have this provision included. But I wanted to draw that to your attention and ask if that's something that you would like us to draft to be consistent with what the state allows, which would again allow that off kind of adjacent to the mobile food unit, but off it as long as it's covered and as long as the rest of the food prep be done on the mobile food unit itself. And those are really the only two. I have the full presentation we went over in our May work session, but those are really, I just wanted to bring that to your attention and have some conversation about it.
I think just the other day we were at a taco truck and they had a little table set out front with a couple of different salsa choices and some chips. So that would not be allowed. Or the
That's
state
not cooking.
does allow. It's not cooking, but it's serving outside of the unit. So maybe I misunderstood what was said. You did talk about grilling and having to have a lid, but I didn't hear anything about having
Display that it's serving.
display. Okay.
Store or display.
Oh, display, yes, sorry.
Kind of thought of cooler. You got sodas or beer or whatever in. If you're in there trying to serve in that limited area, tripping over a cooler that's not built into your system, that would be a hassle too.
So for instance, the residence issue, if we wanted to adjust that, we would have to make, our motion would include that adjustment, if that was something we were interested in.
Yes, ma'am.
Likewise with this.
So
You could,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
you could, in your, so if you wanted to allow mobile food units to be stored at a residence, you could make a motion tonight to adopt chapter 14 recommendations as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. If you wanted to continue to prohibit the storage of the units in a residential area, you could make a motion to approve chapter 14 amendments as presented by staff. And then if you would like to follow the state's, what the state allows related to off unit preparation, you could include that in your motion, and then we would draft that language and make sure it's in there for the second reading.
Just if I may, I did not ask the state about storing or leaving food outside, for example, the saucer or the cooler. I could follow up with the state and ask before our next meeting and have that information for you. I only asked about the cooking and the grilling, just because of the question that our state secretary office received about from an applicant who wanted to grill outside.
I personally would be in agreement with the cooking grilling portion. I'm still iffy about the storage of the food truck in a residential area.
How do you feel about displaying foods out front?
Well, your example of salsa, I don't want my taco without my salsa. I don't want my chips without my salsa.
Yeah, to me, it's when someone's standing in line, you're trying to get your food, you step over, just like you would at a stadium or whatever to get your hot dog condiments. It just removes them from the line and keeps it flowing. I don't have a problem with it.
Oh, I think I misunderstood you. They weren't on your table,
They were on a table.
on
next-
a table, but not
next
your
to-
table.
Correct.
I
Yes,
understand.
so maybe in front or to the side. I mean, I don't have a problem with that.
I don't either.
It's for, it's to serve yourself. Yeah.
Like mustard, like a hot dog, mustard, pickles, etc.
It's like the hot dog guy at Lowe's.
Exactly.
Hot dogs.
That's why I'm familiar with where it's.
So I think
Hot dogs are cooked.
so we will follow up with the state to make sure that, that we're being consistent with the state law, but if that is consistent, then we'll draft, some language for the second reading that would, allow that kind of thing to happen off the actual unit itself.
So the motion would need to contain two items, right? Either to allow parking at home, which would be per the P and Z, or disallow parking at home, which would be per staff. So that's one decision point. And the other one is to allow off-unit prep per the state guidelines, which would then allow for the chips or the drinks or whatever to be not housed in the unit at the time of service.
Yes, you could make a motion that would, adopt the regulations as presented, either as recommended by the P and Z or as presented by staff with the addition of allowing the, cooking and display of food and beverages, adjacent to the mobile food unit.
per state regulations.
And then we'll let you know between now and then to make sure there's no state law concerns with that.
Question, if we allow the food trucks to be parked there in the neighborhood, and something would happen, whole neighborhood, catch your park. Is the city liable in any way because we allow them to do that?
I don't believe so, but sorry.
No. Hopefully make that very clear. We want to come back to us.
I can't remember our conversation. We went around and around and around about parking at residences. Did we say as long as it was did we discuss parking in the driveway of the residence or on the street in front of the residence? What?
So a mobile food unit that was a trailer based on other regulations outside the mobile food unit ordinance wouldn't be allowed to be stored on the street if it wasn't attached to a vehicle. So prior to you adopting these amendments, a mobile food unit had to be stored in a driveway. These amendments, as you adopted them in December, you added the prohibition that they can't be stored at a residence at all, no matter if they're in the driveway or in the back or in a garage. They just can't be stored at a residence at all.
Outside of the appearance, which there's a reason not to allow them, we have tried to do this chapter pretty much in line with some of the state regulations. Is that not correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I seem to remember when we discussed parking at home, the issue was the aspect of people doing prep, either in their trailer or in their home, and it doesn't have the same sense of potential sanitary issues as if they were using a central commissary or just doing it in their truck. And that was part of the reason not to allow them to park at home. Am I making that up, or wasn't that part of the conversation?
That
So
was
state law prohibits mobile food unit operators from preparing food in a private residence. So that is just completely against state law. Staff had originally proposed the prohibition of storing the mobile food units at a residence to help provide an extra safeguard against that happening. P&Z, when they made their recommendation, when we did this at the end of last year, they recommended that prohibition. So the recommendation that staff brought to them included not being allowed to store a mobile food unit as a residence for that reason. And they supported that and brought that to you or recommended that. Between when it came to when it left P&Z and when it came to you, staff removed that after talking to the Bell County Public Health District, and then them expressing concerns, and then you all added it back in. So you had it in your
The prohibition of parking.
yes, in the December amendments. And at the time that you added it back in, there was conversation about the food prep at a residence. There was conversation about fire safety concerns. There was conversation about aesthetic concerns. So there were several different things that we talked about during that time.
Thank you for clarification.
As an example, Wendell, are you a homeowner association where you live? So they would be prohibited in front of your house.
It is, yes.
And you're a homeowner association. I'm not. I'm just thinking about places visually that I understand. I don't want food trucks parked on my street any more than I want other kinds of big trucks with lots of printing and whatnot. Just, it's visual, it's aesthetic. And I think a lot of people feel that way.
You could they park it in back behind a fence did we explore that? Where
We
it's
talked about it.
it's hidden somewhat?
Still give the possibility of prep in the kitchen at home.
If they're gonna break the state law, they're gonna break the state law.
I agree. I think food trucks are like an 18-wheeler cab in your front, across the street from you. I get that.
I do too. And of course, the response is, so move where there's a homeowners association.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't answer for half the city that doesn't have a homeowners association. And some of them feel the way we feel and some don't, wouldn't care.
But boats and RVs can
I see that as business versus recreation.
recreation.
And the printing all over it. I mean, I would prefer not to look at lots of RVs also, but that's just my elitist attitude.
There's zoning all over town, right? What you can do and what you can't, and where you can do those things. And to me, a mobile food truck is something that is a business that normally, if it wasn't mobile, it wouldn't be allowed there, right? I mean, the point.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's kind of one of those things that can literally go in and out of zoning districts. And if, in my mind, if that's a business and it's operated as a business, I don't think you would allow a mobile food truck owner to open the doors to the mobile food truck and serve right there out of his own driveway. That would be a prohibition, right? So I don't think it should, that's,
So you're saying stick with the regulation as we passed it in December?
if I could make a motion, that would be my motion.
I agree.
Me too.
And I agree too, especially though for more of the safety reasons.
I'm on board, there's no doubt.
So get your motions straight.
Say what?
Get your motions straight.
Well, we don't have to get our motions straight if we keep it the way we passed it already.
But you have to say as per staff recommendation or P and Z recommendation. Those are two different
And the
things.
staff recommendation is what we passed, not the P and Z.
Staff recommendation is not to allow them in, not to allow the mobile food units to park in the neighborhood.
Right.
You just have to be sure and say
So
that.
we say per staff recommendation.
Why was the amendment to allow grilling, cooking, and display of food? As long as, according to state law.
We know who should make the amendment.
Jessica.
Jessica says she doesn't like tacos anyway.
I never said that.
We know that's not true.
All right, anything else? Staff, anything else? All right, then we will adjourn this workshop and reconvene in the Jack Morris Hall room, 5 o'clock. Thank you.